So something that a lot of people are overlooking, and including myself in my review, I didn't really bring it up, and that's that we basically got the true identity of Whis. Like, we already knew, okay, he was a servant to Beerus, he was pretty much his mentor, which seemingly, alludes to the fact that he's a lot stronger than Beerus, or at the very least, he's stronger than him because he was training him and stuff like that. So that was the identity that up until this particular point we had. That was who we assumed he was, just, at face value, hey, he's a helper. But when you go back to, like, the Universe 6 arc, and you see that there was Vados to Champa, which was basically the same role, then you kind of thought, okay, so do all God of Destructions have this servant? Why is it that they're, very similar? So there was a lot of questions that were asked, and honestly, I think after finding out the true identity of Whis, it definitely, explained maybe a couple things, but also it just made me ask even more questions. It kind of brought up even more speculation regarding Whis. So essentially, in case you missed it, just to give you a brief recap, Whis was revealed in the latest episode of Dragon Ball Super to be an angel. Basically, he's an angel to the God of Destruction, Beerus. Now, a lot of questions right there. Okay, what does that exactly mean? I mean, we know what an angel is, but even as Goku joked, like, he doesn't have his butt hanging out. Like, so what type of angel? So that's one of the questions that it brings up, but it does explain, okay, so based on what we know in the episode and stuff like that, the God of Destruction, and that probably goes for Champa and any other God of Destruction, which it could also go for different gods as well, not just the gods of destruction, they have an angel at their side as well. Now, is it just the laws of the world that put this in place, that every God of Destruction has this sort of angel at their side? Because based on the knowledge we got, it seems as though they are basically put in place there no matter what. Now you gotta ask, okay, who does this? Is it the Omni King, the king of everything? Is he the one that's guiding all this stuff? Like, where does this all come into play? So let's quickly read the dialogue and the exchange that we had in the latest episode of Dragon Ball Super. In the alternate timeline, Goku mentioned Whis when asking his whereabouts, since future Beerus is dead in this timeline that they're in right now, and Supreme Kai tells him that Whis, being Beerus's angel, ceased to exist after Beerus's death and would only return when a new God of Destruction was appointed. So you can assume right there that he has a very similar connection to the God of Destruction that the Supreme Kai has, because if the Supreme Kai dies, then the God of Destruction dies. If Beerus disappears, or Beerus dies or whatever, then Whis ceases to exist, but he doesn't die. It doesn't say that he dies, and it seems as though he comes back whenever there's a new God of Destruction. So I'm kind of curious, well, who appoints this? Who is guiding all this? Does it just happen by itself, or is the Omni King playing this part? Because you can see, I think the Omni King is going to be a lot more important, and I'm glad that he was introduced as a character, so it kind of adds a lot of things together, and you can piece and kind of assume things like, such as this, for example, kind of play into maybe the Omni King could be responsible for this. I mean, he has a couple of helpers himself, right? So it's not a far-fetched idea to say, well, he looks at a God of Destruction, he needs help, he needs guidance, and what better than somebody level-headed like Whis? Because you can see Whis and Vados. Vados kind of seems a little bit iffy, because Vados seems like she could possibly have ulterior motive, maybe even be a little bit on the evil side, and Champa seems like kind of a prick as well. So maybe Vados isn't the best candidate or whatever, but then again, it kind of questions if the Lord of Everything is the one really in charge of all this. But nonetheless, there's somebody or some law that is basically making this happen. But again, you got to kind of wonder exactly what is an angel. Is it just similar to, like, some role like, Kai and God and stuff like that? Or is there something more to it? Or is his sole purpose just to help out the God of Destruction? Because a lot of questions I had to ask is, okay, why doesn't Whis, jump in and fight? Why doesn't he help? But thankfully that's been explained, that, basically he ceases to exist. And I'm kind of curious, has he been around this entire time? Like, before Beerus, was he around with the previous God of Destruction? Will he be with the next God of Destruction? Or does he eventually trade places? And is there a possibility that at some given point he could come back as not an angel, but a God of Destruction himself? And maybe that's another reason why he can't necessarily involve himself with things, because maybe the angels aren't allowed to interfere with things. Maybe he broke laws. Who knows? Maybe him using his wand to rewind time, like in the Resurrection F arc and stuff like that, maybe that could have consequences towards Whis, because again, he's an angel. Is he actually allowed to interfere with the, qualms of mortals or the God of Destruction himself when it comes to giant affairs? Either way, I think it's pretty crazy that we got some revelations about Whis and who he truly is, basically being an angel, but it also, raises more questions. Okay, exactly what in the Dragon Ball universe does an angel constitute? Does it just mean that he's, like, hey, I'll be there for the God of Destruction? Or do all gods, like, there's other gods, let's just say there's not only gods of destruction, maybe there's gods of life and stuff like that, do they have their own version of Whis, their own angel as well? who appointed him, how did this all come about, and has he been with all the gods of destruction? Like before Beerus, was he with the god of destruction prior to him? How long has Beerus been around? So again, there's a lot of questions to ask regarding this revelation that we had about Whis. But let me know what you guys think about this. First of all, how do you feel about the revelation about Whis being an angel? Do you think that that's going to play into something even bigger regarding his role, or it's just going to be like, hey, he's just an angel and that's just going to be like a very simple explanation? Also, do you think there's a possibility that Whis was with the previous god of destruction? Maybe he was the teacher or something like that for the previous one before Beerus. And I guess something else to note real quick is the fact that he is his teacher. So are the angels considered like mentors to the god of destruction? Is their sole purpose to maybe prepare the god of destructions to be not just, you know, a tyrant? Because let's just say Whis wasn't there, because essentially you got to think about it. Whis' role, if that's the case, if he's just there as some sort of, you know, role model, so to speak, for the god of destruction, then he is very vital. Because if he's not there, then who's to say that the god of destruction at the time couldn't just go crazy and start killing and, you know, pillaging and being something like a Frieza, like, you know, just a complete maniac. So it also showcases that Whis' role is a lot more vital than you would initially assume, just being an angel. Because if his role is to basically be there for the god of destruction and always for the next god of destruction be there, then yeah, he's pretty important. And since we found this out about Whis, you can assume that Vados as well is an angel. And do you think that there's a possibility, maybe looking at Vados, that Vados is a bad pick? Or maybe that since that's a different universe, they needed an angel like that? Because if, let's just say it's the Omni King, right? He's the one that's ruling everything. He's the one that's taking care of everything, and he's taking care of affairs and matters like this. Do you think that maybe because of the Universe 6 and the structure, he looked at somebody and he was like, okay, you know, we need an angel in this particular fashion? Because I could say that Whis looks like he's a better person than Vados. I don't think Vados would be doing nice things, but then again, it could be because of Champa's personality. Maybe Champa, because he's such a greedy and like power hungry person, rubbed off on Vados in a way, because a lot of the stuff that we've seen Vados do in the Universe 6 arc was kind of because of Champa. Champa wanted these bad fighters, you know, he didn't care where they came from, so she got them for him. But at the same time, would Whis do that? You gotta kind of make the comparison, because would Whis look for any type of fighter if Beerus said, yo, get me some fighters, like, and you'll get evil guys and people that are crooks and thieves or rapists or something like that? Vados would. So again, that kind of makes me question Vados' character, even though she's supposed to be an angel, but maybe she's some sort of like evil angel, or maybe not the nicest angel in the world. Or again, it could be that Champa rubbed off on her. And of course, lastly, again, it makes me wonder about the other angels out there and their roles, because we still haven't really explored a lot of things about Dragon Ball Super, let's be honest, about the universe and about the other gods. All we've seen really, aside from our gods, you know, the god of destruction and of course the Kais, but as far as, you know, the gods from the different universes, it doesn't really clarify, like, so is there different types of gods for each universe? Is it just like, you know, every universe has a god of destruction? Or is it because our universe is very similar to Universe 6 that they had a god of destruction just like us? That's something else that you got to kind of question, because it's like, well, it was introduced at the end of Battle of Gods and at the end of the Beerus arc in general, that there's many different universes and there's different gods and stuff like that, but we haven't explored them. And again, tying all this into Whis and stuff like that, you can assume that there's many angels. And again, with him ceasing to exist, that kind of makes me wonder, does he just die? Like, does he go to like the afterlife, and then whenever the new god of destruction is appointed, he comes back? Like, what does it actually mean that he ceases to exist? And if you think about it, in a way, I guess Whis would be kind of invested in the whereabouts and the overall health of the Supreme Kai, because Supreme Kai dies, Beerus dies. Beerus dies, Whis ceases to exist. And you got to think, okay, at the very least, in Whis' case, I don't know about Vados because we don't know that much about her character, but Whis likes food. You know, he loves to try all the different foods that Earth has to offer, and I don't think he would want to miss out on that. I mean, maybe Beerus would be a little more extreme about that, and he'd think about, you know, oh man, I won't be able to eat food anymore that I love if I, you know, get out of this, you know, if I die or whatever. So maybe Whis wouldn't be that extreme about it, but nonetheless, it also makes me wonder if like Whis or Vados has an invested interest in the Supreme Kai of their world and their whereabouts and their health, because like, hey, you know, they die, I cease to exist. And I just wanted to know your overall take on all this regarding Whis, because there's something, again, that I felt as though a lot of people just overlooked it. A lot of people were like, whatever. Like, I think this is pretty important. Him being an angel is a pretty big revelation. And again, Whis has been a key player, because one of the things you got to think of, remember, he's Beerus' teacher. Beerus is pretty much one of the strongest of this entire series. He took out Zama's like bam, Hakai, motherfucker, die, motherfucker. And if Whis is stronger than that, he's pretty big. And it kind of makes me wonder again, can an angel essentially at some given point become a god of destruction if need be? And your overall thoughts of all this. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.